Good morning, YouTube. In last week's video, I was whining about being in a slump with my photography. I later realized that this slump was really just a byproduct of how I was currently approaching my photo trips. Before a trip, I would pick a location and then I would determine my subject based on what I knew to be in the area. Maybe I would pick a specific mountain or lake, etc. And then I would get to that location, find a composition that worked, or at least at the time I thought would work, and then I would wait for the light to hit that subject. And this is just not a recipe for frequent success. Yes, when it works out, you get a home run image with an epic subject and it's almost sure to land in the portfolio. However, the odds are that you won't just happen to be at that location when the light is exactly how you want it. You need to be able to return to that location over and over again until it works out. And that's a fine approach, and it's something that I do frequently in my photography. However, what we can't do as photographers is lose sight of all the other subjects that we could be shooting when it turns out that those conditions are not going to happen. Rather than looking for a subject and then waiting for the light to cooperate, the approach of finding good light and then hunting for a subject in that light is far more likely to yield positive results. Now, both approaches have merit, and I'm definitely not here saying that one is better than the other. I think that a balanced portfolio would be made up of both approaches. However, because I was spending all my time in that first approach mindset, it had me feeling like I was in a slump. Rather than realizing while I was crying about all the failures I had, I was also missing out on a ton of opportunities for success. So today I'm going to swing that pendulum to the exact opposite side. Today I'm ignoring the forecast and I'm heading right back to that same location. I'm taking only one lens, my 400mm Canon 5.6. I have long wanted to review this lens as I think it's possibly the most underrated piece of glass out there for Canon shooters. However, I'm not a technical expert. I really don't care about charts and all that horse hockey. For me, it's just what are the results. So I'm going to go out and I'm going to shoot and let the results speak for themselves. Everything that you're going to see today was shot on this lens, including the video. Well, not this video, but the other stuff. My goal is to scout the area around Cub Lake and the Fern Lake trailhead and open my mind a little bit more to subjects that I would otherwise miss. For now, I'm going to stop jibber jabbering. Let's just go make some images. I could not be happier with this first image. This was exactly the type of image I set out to capture. I love how the eye of the moose just draws you into the image, surrounded by the foliage of these young aspen trees. I did shift the color of the aspen leaves to a more yellow, just to really emphasize the early springtime. I titled this image First Spring, as this baby moose would have been born late last fall and is experiencing its first spring in Rocky Mountain National Park. To me, this image is quintessential Colorado. You have these beautiful aspen trees, and the color immediately draws you to the scene. Then you notice the moose looking at you in the distance until you're eventually drawn to looking this amazing animal right in the eye. There's so many interesting details in this image to maintain the viewer's focus, between the bright new leaves of the aspen trees, the curious eyes of the young moose, and the charred remains of the tree behind the moose. There are many elements to the story, but they weave together without competing, and the end result, at least to me, is an image that I really enjoy. I think this will make an amazing large print and is definitely going to be an image that lands in my portfolio. However, my wife thinks it's just meh, so different strokes for different folks, I guess. These next few images, although not as good as the first, really just capture the resolving power of this lens. Each of these were a single image, many of which were cropped, and I think they really just highlight how even with a single exposure, you can capture an enormous amount of detail. This shows you the shallow depth of field where that eye is just so slightly out of focus. But even still, I love this image with the dark fur of the moose contrasted against these bright leaves that are catching that afternoon sun. I think this is such a compelling image, how the moose's eye just draws you in. This is a perfect example of a scene that I must have walked by a half dozen times. And it was only when I stopped to adjust my pack that I looked to the side and realized that there might be something here. And I'm actually quite happy with this composition, and I really think that this is a perfect example of why, when you set out with the composition in mind, you may walk past dozens of potential images, and sometimes you just need to slow down and look at what's around you. In next week's video, I'm going to be discussing a photo project I'm starting where I want to focus on photographing forests that have been impacted by wildfires. The area surrounding Cub Lake is a perfect example of this, and is really what inspired me to try this project. I waited quite a while to catch this moose walking through this burned area, and I think it was worth the wait, because there was just something about seeing this young moose at the start of his life growing up in this forest, and just seeing how the vegetation is slowly growing back in an area that had been completely decimated by fires. Intentional camera movements, or ICM, is something I've wanted to try for a long time, and I really haven't dabbled very much in. When I saw this stream and thought about how I have a 400mm lens and how even the slightest movements blur the image, I thought I might be able to use this to my advantage. So what I did is I set up on this spot on the stream, and I put on a 4-stop filter, and I panned from left to right, going against the stream for a 1-second composition. And in the second composition, I went with the stream, so right to left also for 1 second. And you can see how much of a difference it makes, because going with the stream, obviously it almost gives the impression of slowing down the moving water, and going against the stream seems to speed it up. I really had a lot of fun doing this. The images didn't come out and they're nothing special, but it's definitely something I want to experiment with in the future. If this is something you've done a lot of and you have any tips or ideas on how I can improve it, please let me know. Alright, well, I have to say that's the most fun that I've had with my camera in a very long time. Removing the expectations of the types of images I thought I should get and just focusing on what was right in front of my big dumb face was really enjoyable for me. I felt free to be creative and just enjoy being out with my camera. Sometimes you just need to get out of your own way and let nature show you just how sexy it can be. Hope you enjoyed the images. Now, most of these images are wildlife images, and I am certainly not a wildlife photographer. I tried to summon my inner Morton Hilmer, but I've got a lot to learn. With that said, I'm very happy with what I came away with. There's just something about being so far away from an animal, but being able to look through the lens and feeling like they're right in front of you and observe them as if you're right in front. Now with that said, please note that not only were these images taken with a 400mm lens, they were also cropped to give the impression of being closer. I would recommend staying at least 25 yards away from moose and elk, as they are truly wild animals and they could be very dangerous. Don't be like this idiot tourist here. He's just lucky he didn't get his head stomped in, and quite frankly, he would have had it coming. Additionally, if you're in this area, please keep your head on a swivel. I started this hike by putting on my headphones, and as I was walking away from my truck, before I hit play on the music, I heard rustling just off the trail. I looked to the right, and a bull moose was in the bushes just 15 to 20 feet away from me. I paused, slowly backed away, and I got to a safe distance to photograph and film. Now that's the one that you can see in the black and white photo. Safe to say, I put the headphones back in the truck, but you always want to be aware of your surroundings. To illustrate this point further, look at this clip here. I was recording the tops of this tree as I was scouting for next week's video. I heard a noise to my left, and this little bastard snuck right up on me. He scared the crap out of me. I snapped this prize image of him as I was slowly packing away my gear, and I evacuated before Mama came to whoop my ass. I might submit this image to National Geographic. Anyways, the moral of the story is 1. Don't get trapped by the expectations that you set on your own images. Just let photography happen, and you might be surprised by the results. 2, if you don't get the results you want, don't be a big whiny baby. Nobody cares, just get back out there and try again. 3, Cub Lake / Fern Lake trailhead is one of the most underrated areas in Rocky Mountain National Park. I am in love with this landscape and have several videos planned here. 4, be respectful of wildlife. When I was shooting this video, I was very happy to see that none of the other hikers got close to the animals. We all observed from a safe distance and were able to enjoy the animals safely. In the past, I've seen people who weren't that way, and they put both themselves and the animals at risk, so don't do that. Number 5, if you like this video, please consider subscribing to this channel and hitting that like button. I have the next dozen or so images planned, and I'll be uploading every Friday morning, Colorado Mountain Time. Number 6, I hope you have a fantastic weekend. Now get out there and make some images.